Millionaire finds black cleaner studying alone in the dark. You won't believe the truth revealed. In the flickering light of an old, swinging bulb, the room pulled at the edges of reality. Shadows danced along the walls, knit together by an electric tension that buzzed in the air, whispering secrets no one was meant to hear. At a glance, the sight was ordinary. Dirty tools resting against a cluttered desk, a couple of half-finished books piled high, all beneath the watchful gaze of a broken clock. But then, the stillness shattered. A loud crash echoed from the back corner, jarring the silence. Goosebumps prickled on the back of hands and necks as the strange sound pulled at the curious. What was lurking beyond the veil of darkness? In a corner, almost camouflaged against the black walls, sat the figure of a woman. Her face was tense, illuminated by the pale glow of a small screen. Every line of her jaw tightened as she meticulously scribbled notes, the ink running across pages like dark rivers pulling the thoughts from her mind. Tall and striking, she wore all black, blending seamlessly with the shadows that engulfed her. Who was she, and why was she here alone? The chill in the air seemed to thicken as whispers and sideways glances cast a net of suspicion around the room. There was something off about her. As people walked into the dimly lit room, ordinary onlookers, mere spectators' eyebrows lifted and gasps muttered through the crowd. What had they stumbled into? No one had expected this encounter. An affluent millionaire casually meandering toward a study filled with peculiarities, and as the story would unfold a tangle of hidden truths. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Tension hung in the air like thick fog as the millionaire approached the mysterious woman. She looked up, eyes glimmering with a mix of wonder and something darker, a flicker of fear maybe? The questions began to swirl. What kind of knowledge did she possess? Why was she studying alone in the dark? The room held its breath, caught in the jaws of uncertainty. And just like that, all eyes turned to the woman, now the center of a tempest of gazes, whispering about revelations yet to surface. Was she hiding something? Or was she a victim of curiosity herself? All at once, the universe seemed to shift. A sudden loud bang erupted, the sound reverberating through the aging walls. The crowd gasped collectively, hearts racing as they exchanged frantic looks. What was about to unfold? As the shadows loomed larger, the mystery deepened, drawing them all in. How far would the truth go? What would it cost to uncover her tale? As the tension climbed, all wondered, was this just the beginning of a much larger story? The crowd froze, eyes wide, breaths caught in collective anticipation. The sound had strained the silence into something sharp enough to slice through the building's suffocating atmosphere. What could provoke such a noise in this forgotten study? The millionaire felt at first an electric jolt of fear zapping through his chest. He took a tentative step forward, eyes locked on the corner where the sound had erupted. The woman remained unflinching, her pencil still racing across the page. It frustrated him. Was she unfazed by the chaos surrounding her? Or was she immersed in her own hidden turmoil, something deeper than any mere curiosity sparked by a loud crash? Suddenly, another sound shattered the tension, glass breaking, followed by an unsettling shuffle. A figure emerged from the shadows, a scruffy man, with wild hair and manic eyes, his clothes torn and caked in dirt. Out of breath yet charged with urgency, he stumbled towards the crowd. "We have to leave! Now!" His voice was frantic, barely registering before it was swallowed by the room's atmosphere. Gasps erupted. Murmurs flared like wildfire through the spectators. Confusion twisted into panic as the man continued. "They're coming! You have to run!" The millionaire's heart raced, but curiosity anchored him in place. "Who is coming? What are you talking about?" he shouted back, his authoritative tone barely above the chaos. The man locked eyes with him, desperation painting his features. "You don't understand. They want her." He pointed a trembling finger at the woman who had been sitting so quietly. "She has something they need." The eyes in the room shifted, landing on her once again, but this time with a cocktail of suspicion and fear. She slowly raised her gaze, the tiniest flash of something fear? Resolve? Crossing her face. "I'm not the one you should be afraid of," she murmured, her voice steady despite the rising storm around her. Another loud crash resonated from the back of the room, splintering the growing tensions and further throwing the crowd into chaos. People began to push against one another, desperate to escape this suffocating place. The millionaire wanted to hold them in place, to extract the truth from this fleeting chaos, but he was swept up in the tide of panic. "Stop! Everyone, listen!" he shouted, but his voice drowned in a torrent of adrenaline and terror. The woman stood, her silhouette stark against the dim light, commanding attention even in this frenzy. "Please! I can explain everything. You need to understand that," but the words fell away as another figure emerged from the corridor, sinister in demeanor and cloak, eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. The crowd shifted, instinctively pulling back from this fresh threat. "What did you do, Francesca?" the newcomer growled, stepping further into the room, casting a long shadow that enveloped the woman. At that moment, the jagged edges of the situation erupted. Secrets held onto too tightly began to fracture, bubbling up like an untamed wildflower breaking free from concrete. Francesca's voice, now laced with defiance, rang out. "You'll never take it. Not today." The door to the study groaned as it rattled against its frame, forcing the crowd to decision the fear of the unknown or the terror brought by what was already in the room. In that split second of choice, everything hung in the balance. What would the crowd do? Would they flee, or would they stand and discover what Francesca was hiding? As the tension thickened and the darkness deepened, one thought permeated the room: what lies beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered, could change them all forever, but only if they dared to stand up. Would they? The answer loomed just at the edge of danger. The room convulsed with tension as the stranger's presence seeped into the very marrow of the gathering, breathing life into an already charged atmosphere. The wealthy elite shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, their faces a mash of anxiety and incredulity. Francesca stepped forward, the determination radiating from her thin frame igniting a flicker of bravery within some. "You need to understand. There are lives at stake here." She raised her hand, palm facing the intruder, as if that alone could keep the darkness at bay. "I will not hand over what you seek." The newcomer chuckled, a dark, humorless sound that ricocheted off the walls. "You think your defiance means anything?" His eyes flickered with malice, his gaze a predator assessing its prey. "You're playing a dangerous game." "Enough." The millionaire's voice thundered through the chaos, desperate to assert control. "This doesn't concern us." But doubt stirred among the crowd, igniting whispers of fear that spiraled like smoke from a fire. With a swift motion, Francesca pulled something glittering from her coat pocket, a small crystal vial that caught the dim light and fractured it into a spectrum of colors. Gasps swept through the room, followed by a stunned silence. "They want this," she said, her voice lower but unwavering, "because it has the power to change everything." The scruffy man who had burst in began to shake his head, panic escalating on his features. "They'll stop at nothing. You think you can protect it? You'll only put us all in danger." In a flash, voices erupted, each spectator wrestling with their own fears and moral dilemmas. To stay and confront this dark figure, or to flee and save themselves. Amidst the rising uproar, a few voices cut through, screaming for action, while others begged for retreat. Francesca faced the advancing figure, her defiance cutting through the storm. "If you think you can scare me into submission, you're mistaken." The stranger smiled, a cruel twist of his lips. "Oh, Francesca, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to collect what's mine." He stepped closer, his presence a suffocating shade. "And if you refuse, you'll drag them all down with you." The millionaire's heart raced with desperation. Every instinct screamed for him to shield the vulnerable, to protect a woman who seemed to harbor the weight of the world in that small vial. "What is it? What does it do?" But before Francesca could respond, chaos erupted anew. The door shuddered violently, the wood splintering under the strain of whoever, or whatever, was trying to penetrate their sanctuary. The air shifted. It was no longer just the threat of one ominous figure creeping closer, but something much larger lurking. "Run!" the scruffy man shouted, his voice rising above the cacophony. In that heartbeat, the crowd teetered on the brink. Some surged toward the exit, a wave of fear pushing them forward, while others clamored to stay, captivated and horrified by the revelation unfolding before them. Francesca's piercing gaze danced between the two factions, an embodiment of conflict torn between loyalty and survival. She had to make a choice. And then it hit her, a memory, a revelation that lit a fire in her veins. What if the vial wasn't just a source of fear? Was it hope wrapped in despair? Before she could act, the door imploded inward, fragments of wood exploding across the room as figures cloaked in darkness poured in like a tidal wave. "Now, the real game begins," the newcomer hissed. An electrifying tension enveloped the crowd. Would they make a stand? Or succumb to the darkness engulfing them? As shadows swallowed the room whole, Francesca raised the vial high, her voice ringing out one last time against the cacophony. "Don't give up. It's not over yet. You have to trust me." But would they? And at the heart of it all, what had Francesca really unleashed? The truth was just beginning to unfurl, the stakes rapidly climbing. The shadows engulfed the room, wrapping tightly around the frightened faces, squeezing the last remnants of courage from the crowd. Francesca could feel their fear rippling, a living thing shifting beneath the weight of the unknown. Those terrible figures tightened their circle, moving silently, their eyes reflecting the chaos like shards of dark glass. Francesca's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of the urgency that clung to the air. She gripped the vial tightly, her knuckles whitening. Was this the hope she thought it might be, or would it unleash something far worse? Leading with fear, the millionaire reached for the nearest phone, his fingers trembling at the thought of dialing, of summoning outside help that might not come. "Get out! Someone call the police!" he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. But the noise echoed off the walls, swallowed by the approaching tide of darkness, rendering his pleas futile. "Stop wasting your breath," Francesca called out, her voice cutting through the din. "We can't wait for help. We need to fight." "Fight?" The stranger laughed again, a soft, taunting sound that crawled under everyone's skin. "You think your little vial can save you? You can't even trust each other." He glanced around the room, his eyes gleaming with sadistic pleasure as he witnessed their despair. "Your fear will be your downfall." A scream pierced the air, tugging everyone's attention. A woman staggered backward, clutching her throat, eyes wide with terror. She had seen something, or someone, that drove her to the brink. The shadows shifted, closing in with malevolent intent. Francesca felt panic slice through her resolve. It was one thing to be brave, another to be foolish. "We need to hold on," she urged, her voice rising above the impending doom. "This vial could be the key. We can't let it fall into their hands." With that, she raised the vial higher, its crystalline surface catching glimmers of stray light, reflecting colors that danced like fireflies against the engulfing blackness. Around her, People hesitated, their eyes drawn to the fragile object in her palm. Was it the potential for salvation they could lean upon? But skepticism reigned. "What if it's a bait?" shouted an older gentleman, his face a mask of uncertainty. "What if this is all part of their game?" Francesca's insides churned. Was she leading them into a trap? The doubts seated in the room were growing like weeds, making her question everything. "Don't let them get into your heads," she yelled, trying to rally their fading spirits. But their confidence flickered, and darkness tightened its grip, shadows creeping closer, growing bolder as fear paralyzed them. Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the space, extinguishing the dim lights one by one, leaving only the cruel brightness of shadows. Francesca's breath hitched, her vision narrowing to the shadows that loomed closer. Panic surged like a tidal wave, and she sensed their collective heartbeat quicken, despair threatening to drown them all. Then, from the depths, a voice slithered through the silence, a mere whisper, yet it carried weight. "She doesn't know what she has unleashed." Francesca felt the blood drain from her face. What did he mean? What had she done? She turned sharply, scanning the darkness, searching for the source of the unsettling words. Suddenly, a bright flash erupted from the vial, illuminating the room in blinding light, forcing the malevolent figures to jerk away. In that moment, Francesca felt the power of the vial surge through her, igniting hope in her chest. Could it really hold the key to their survival? The crowd gasped, instinctively stepping back, faces painted with a mixture of fear and awe. The shadows hissed like serpents, recoiling from the light. Francesca seized the moment. "We have to stand together," she shouted, her voice stronger now. "We can turn this around." But as light spread, it revealed something shocking, a truth that sent a chill down everyone's spine. One standing among them was who they thought they were in that instant. The room teetered once more, between salvation and despair. Did the vial harbor the truth they so desperately needed, or was the darkness simply waiting for its chance to strike? And amidst the chaos, one question loomed larger than the rest. Who could she actually trust? The shadows shifted violently, scrambling in the wake of the blinding light. Francesca peered into the faces that surrounded her, the expressions morphing from sheer panic to astonishment. She could feel the weight of each gaze, a cocktail of disbelief and hope, as they stared at the figure now half illuminated in the room. The stranger, a man who had been lurking in their midst, now stood exposed before everyone. Francesca squinted at him. He appeared unchanged, unruffled by the chaos, but his eyes flickered with a knowing darkness that sent a chill down her spine. "What are you?" she demanded, her voice rising above the murmurs. He simply smiled, an infuriatingly calm response that only fueled her anxiety. "I'm just a friend. A guide, if you will," he replied, his tone silky smooth, almost inviting. "Friend?" Francesca scoffed. "You've been playing us this whole time." His smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "You don't know half of it, Francesca." A gasp rippled through the room, and she felt the atmosphere shift, the energy palpable as the crowd leaned in, craving answers. Who was this man, and what game was he playing? "Your little vial," he continued, gesturing lazily at it, "is more than just an object of light. It holds power, a power that could either cut through this darkness or plunge you deeper into it." Panic surged again, competing fiercely against the flickering hope. "Then why do you want it?" She shot back defensively, clutching the vial tighter. "Because, dear Francesca, it belongs to me." The room seemed to freeze, the air thickening with dread. She could feel the weight of the crowd's eyes. A million questions swirled, colliding with the reality that this man might know something critical, a truth buried deep. "Why would you let us find it?" one of the others finally asked, voice trembling. "Oh, I didn't let you find it," he replied, tilting his head as if savoring the hushed fear. "I guided you to it. This was never about the vial. It was about you, all of you." Francesca's heart raced. Was he saying they were all part of his sick game? She felt the walls closing in, her throat tightening as his words sunk in. This was so much larger than any of them had realized. "What do you mean?" she pressed, desperate for clarity, aware that every moment lost was one drawn closer to their doom. He took a step forward, his face illuminated by flashes of the violet's light. "You have all been chosen for the unveiling. Each of you holds a piece of the puzzle, and you must decide whether to unite or remain divided." A woman behind Francesca murmured in fear, "What puzzle? What does that even mean?" "The one that will save you," he replied, voice dripping with mockery. "But first, you must confront your darkest fears. Only then can strength flourish among the ashes of despair." Francesca glanced down at the vial, the warping glass refracting light into haunting shapes around the room. What had she really stumbled upon? "We can't trust anything you say," another voice chimed in, panic evident. "Oh, but the darkness trusts you," the man shot back, his smile fading. "That much is clear. It feeds on your desires, your fears, and soon it will claim you all." With that, the light from the vial flickered, casting an eerie glow on the room, drawing forth shadows as if they were alive, hungry. The crowd gasped again as they felt the temperature plunge, the ominous pressure gathering in the air around them. Francesca had little time to process. She was faced with a horrifying choice. Should she trust the eerie figure in the depths of the darkness, or rally the others and risk the evil consuming them? A hushed silence blanketed the room, every heartbeat echoing the looming dread. The shadows crept closer, whispering secrets that taunted and tormented them. "Will you embrace the light, or will you fall to the dark?" His voice lingered, taunting them with the gravity of his words. Francesca's grip on the vial loosened, uncertainty consuming her. Who among them was truly capable of standing against the encroaching darkness? And as she took a shaky breath, another revelation snuck in the shadows were not just fears, but something much worse, a consequence of their choices. Were they truly ready to confront what lay within? She sensed the room closing in once more, stifling hope spiraling into despair. In that dark corner of her mind lurked the question, what if the darkness was inside them all along? Francesca's heart pounded as she felt the weight of the stranger's gaze. The shadows pressed closer, and an unspeakable terror gripped her. "What does he mean?" Voices whispered, nervous questions ricocheting against the walls. She felt every pair of eyes on her, raw anxiety bubbling in the air. The man's smile widened again, but it twisted oddly, like a predator savoring its prey. She could sense the others behind her, a mix of fear and confusion causing them to shuffle uncertainly. Were they really trapped in a game set by this man? And what terrible truths were they about to uncover? "Think about it," he purred, a tone that cut through the chaos like a knife. "You're all standing here, clinging to secrets that could shatter you," he gestured at the gathered people, "and yet you don't know it." As the shadows flickered and danced, Francesca took a deep breath, her body trembling. "What have you done to us?" she demanded, her voice barely rising above a whisper as the desperation clung to her like a vice. "I've done nothing but reveal what you are," he replied, his voice cold and without remorse. "Each of you is a mirror, reflecting your own darkness. It's time to unveil it. Only when you accept your fear can you harness it." A murmur of dissent rippled through the crowd. Someone shouted, "You're a monster." Francesca felt a rush of solidarity, but doubt coiled around her heart. Could she believe in those words? "Monster?" he echoed, leaning closer, his breath cold against her skin. How naive. "I'm the truth, not the monster." Suddenly, a woman, the one who'd seemed the most frightened, broke away from the group. "You don't own us," she shouted defiantly. The others fell silent, all mixed with fear evident across their faces. The man laughed, a haunting sound that resonated in the fleeting light. "You think you're free? Oh, But the darkness is patient. It waits for every crack in your armor to seep in. Francesca felt a cold sweat trickle down her back. She tore her eyes away from the man, desperate for a way out. The shadows seemed to pulse, growing bolder. They whispered her name, beckoning her. The vial trembled in her hand. Was it a source of strength, or a burden too heavy to carry? She gazed at the trembling shards of light spilling out, illuminating the grotesque forms inching closer, an overwhelming sense of dread settling in her chest. An idea formed. "You said we have to confront our fears?" she said, forcing her voice to sound steady. "What if we faced them together?" The man frowned, an expression that roiled uncertainty in his dark eyes. "Unity, you say? But tell me, do you trust the person standing next to you? Or would your own fear betray you first?" Francesca glanced at the others. A mixture of panic and determination filled her. They were all battling demons, confronting the heart of the darkness that this man had laid bare before them. "Enough with your games!" someone shouted from the back, igniting a flicker of rebellion. "We stand together against whatever you are." A rare smile broke through his calm facade, and for a moment, it felt as if the shadows recoiled. But then, they surged forward with renewed ferocity. "Do you really think you're strong enough to face what lies beneath?" Francesca tightened her grip on the vial. She felt its power pulse like a heartbeat, throbbing against her skin. "We don't have a choice," she cried. "We face this now." As a collective breath was drawn in, a sudden thunder cracked through the room, the shadows around them writhing in protest as if sensing the shift in resolve. "Then embrace your choice." The man spat, the shadows swirling into a vortex around him. In the chaos, Francesca took a step back, pulse racing, hearts thrumming in sync. She felt as if they stood at the precipice, about to either shatter or emerge stronger, and then a whisper escaped the shadows, chilling the air. "The darkness knows you, Francesca, and it hungers." What lay ahead seemed unthinkable, yet they had to confront that horrific truth. The choices made today would unravel everything they thought they knew, with the shadows swirling. Ominously, Francesca faced the heart of the chaos and wondered, were they strong enough to rewrite their fate, or would they slip into darkness, never to return? Francesca stumbled back, her heart racing as the shadows twisted and churned around them. Each pulse of darkness felt alive, almost sentient, as if feeding on their fear. The man stood tall, a forbidding figure in the swirling gloom, and she locked eyes with him. His gaze burned through her, and the confidence he exuded chilled her more than any shadow ever could. "What do you want from us?" a voice called out, shaky but fierce. It was the frightened woman, the one who had first challenged their captor. The crowd turned, many faces drawn tight with fear, but there was a glimmer of unity sparking in the murky air. They were as scared as Francesca, but sparked by defiance. He tilted his head, an unnerving smile creeping across his lips. "What I want?" His laughter echoed, a cruel melody that raised the hairs on the back of her neck. "I want you to embrace your truths. It's the only way to survive." "Survive what?" Francesca gritted her teeth, clutching the vial tighter. The globe pulsed erratically, casting flickering lights that mocked the growing terror within her. Its warmth countered the cold dread wrapping around her heart, but did it give her the strength she needed? "The truth always comes at a price," the man said, stepping closer, shadows swirling at his feet like dark water. "Face your fears, or let them consume you whole. No one leaves here unscathed." Francesca took a shaky breath. "We want to back down." The words felt fragile, but she pushed the fear aside. They had to stand together. But could they really trust each other? She scanned the crowd. Some of them were pale, eyes wide with terror, while others clenched their fists, courage flickering through the fear. "What are you waiting for?" the man taunted, gesturing toward the flickering shadows. "They come for you, drawn by the weight of your darkest secrets. What waits beneath the surface?" Who among you will break first? Suddenly, the shadows lashed out, writhing, grappling toward the group like angry snakes. Francesca felt the energy shift in the room. Panic erupted, cries echoing against the walls as everyone instinctively recoiled. The collective breath they had drawn shattered into chaos. "Stand firm," Francesca shouted, anger surging through her like fire. "Don't let it break you." She felt the blast of courage surge from the vial, believing that if they could unite their will, they could push the shadows away. They had to believe. "Together," she urged, and as if in reaction, the group shuffled closer. The warmth of their presence solidified, a tight bond forming against the encroaching darkness. But then, a scream pierced through the cacophony. A man, eyes wide with terror, staggered back, falling into the gripping shadows. As he disappeared, the man's triumphant laughter rang through the room, mingling with the anguished cries of the crowd. Francesca's heart clenched. "See?" he said, voice slick as oil. "Fear breeds fear. Will it be your secret that drags you down next?" Francesca's pulse raced as she watched the shadows not only lurk but fed directly on the group's growing panic. They needed to act, and fast. She raised the vial, letting its light shine brighter. "We can fight! We can push it away!" But doubt crept in, a whisper that hollered louder than any scream. Was she strong enough? The shadows swirled, forming grotesque shapes that mirrored her worst fears. Her mind raced back to the past, the failures that haunted her, the betrayal that left her heart like glass, fragile and sharp. That crack in her armor, did it leave her vulnerable? Could she protect the others while battling her own fears? "Francesca," a voice called. The woman who had spoken earlier was staring directly at her. "You have to lead us. Find the strength. We can't lose anyone else." Francesca felt the weight of their hopes, their fears. Would she be their light against the dark? With a racing heart, she shouted, "Let us unleash the truth. All of us together." The shadows still crept, but with each word spoken, with every pulse of the vial, there was a flicker of resistance. They were not alone. Not in this. Her thoughts raced ahead, exhilaration battling with dread. And in that moment, just as she feared they might be lost, the shadows writhed violently, as if responding to their defiance. But darkness had a voice too, and it whispered low, "You can't break free, Francesca, not when the truth is so close." As the shadows lunged toward them, Francesca took a deep breath. The moment had arrived. Would they break the spell of darkness, or would it be the end of them all? And at that moment, she felt the shadows around her pulse with anticipation, waiting for her next move without knowing if there was a way out. Francesca's heart pounded like a war drum, drowning out the cacophony of terror around her. The shadows surged forward, reaching, grasping. It was now or never. A surge of energy from the vial coursed through her veins, illuminating the faces around her, twisted in fear yet edged with defiance. She felt their hope blend with her own brightness, uniting them in that dark void. "Push it back," she shouted, lifting the vial higher. The aura lightened, spilling out with a warmth that felt like a lifeline. "Let your truths unite. Don't let them pull you under." As the shadows recoiled, hissing like 1,000 angry serpents, fragments of her past blinked vividly in her mind: betrayals, failures, unspoken words. Each dark memory rippled into the present, twisting her insides. The shadows spun around her, morphing into familiar faces, memories that stung like fresh wounds. She was scared, yes, but also furious. "Francesca," the woman's voice rose again. "This is our chance. Use it." The words ignited something deep within her. It wasn't just her fear. The others around her were holding pieces of their struggles, burdens that threatened to crush them, too. She saw it now in the terrified eyes of the crowd, in their trembling knees. With a deep breath, Francesca pushed that fear aside and resolved to lead, fueled by anger and defiance. Together, she screamed, and as if on cue, they all clasped hands, a human chain of defiance. They were stronger together, a bulwark against the encroaching dark. The shadows thrashed around them, almost frenzied. "You think this pitiful light can save you?" The man sneered, voice filled with dark amusement. "Look closer. They want to taste your fear. Yours." His finger pointed directly at Francesca, and the shadows honed in on her. Images flashed, each dark memory clawing its way to the forefront of her mind, sinking deeply into her. She felt her resolve waver as the shadows whispered her failures, as if laying bare her deepest insecurities. But then she thought of the man who'd been lost, swallowed by darkness. She couldn't let that happen again. "I know my truth," she declared, shaking her head furiously, her voice powerful and unwavering. "It does not define me, it fuels me." In that moment, the air shifted as if acknowledging her strength, swirling around with renewed intensity. A gasp erupted from across the group. Someone stepped forward, followed by another and another. "I am tired of hiding," yelled the woman, arms raised. "No more secrets." The shadows let out an angry hiss, but it was no match for the gathering swell of resolve and light. One by one, others shouted their truths, past mistakes, hidden pain, raw heartbreak. Each confession flowed like a wave, crashing against the shadows. The dark's grip faltered, rattled by such audacity. But just when Francesca felt invincible, a deep chill snaked through her, accompanied by a chilling laughter. How naive! The man took a step forward, the shadows gathering like a storm behind him. "You think you can just cast away your fears? You think unity can erase your past?" Francesca's resolve flickered, doubts creeping back. But they were her truths, and they had power. Her grip on the vial tightened. As the shadows lunged once more, determined to swallow them whole, she braced herself. "Let us show them our light," she roared, energy radiating from them all, pulsing in time with their hearts. As they pushed against the shadows, another scream erupted from the corner of the crowd, a woman, crumpling as the darkness caught her foot, pulling her back into an abyss. "Help her!" someone shouted in despair. Francesca felt a surge of panic alongside her defiance. "We can save her!" But the shadows writhed again, a chilling reminder of the stakes. "The truth is painful," the man said, each word like a knife. "It'll tear you apart." "Not today," Francesca yelled, as vibrant light erupted from the vial, encasing the group, driving back the darkness, if only for now. Yet the whispers of the shadows lingered, and with every pulse of the light, Francesca knew the battle was far from over. As the woman clawed against the void, Francesca's eyes locked on the figure in the shadows, realization dawning. What if their truths could save her? But at what cost? The shadows shifted ominously, swirling around the room like a smoke screen, hiding what might come next, and Francesca's heart raced in anticipation of the battle ahead. Francesca's breath hitched as she grasped the urgency of the moment, the shrill cries ringing in her ears, blending with the deafening silence of the looming shadows. Dark fingers curled around the edges of their makeshift barricade, eager to snatch up the woman struggling against the void. Each moment felt like an hour. Sweat trickled down Francesca's back, the vial's warmth now feeling almost electric in her trembling hands. "Hold on. Don't give in," she screamed, channeling every ounce of her spirit into her words. The crowd erupted, voices rising in harmony, declaring their shared truths. "I lost my sister to this darkness," one man cried, stepping forward with fierce determination. "I won't lose anyone else." "We all have scars," shouted another, fists clenched. "But they make us who we are." Francesca could feel the power of their declarations weaving together, strengthening the light radiating from the vial. With every shout, they pushed back harder against the shadows. It was a beautiful chaos, raw, unfiltered emotion swirling into a commanding force. Yet the shadows would not be easily vanquished. They twisted and churned, the man's laughter slicing through their collective courage like glass. "You think shouting will protect you?" he taunted, his voice resonating with dark magic. "You are nothing but a tapestry of fear and failure. A flicker in the endless night." With his words, Francesca felt a wave of cold wash over her, a shiver that crept into her bones. What if he was right? What if this was all just a futile attempt to escape the reality of their shattered lives? No. No more doubt. Francesca's eyes burned bright, fueled by a tenacity she didn't know she possessed. "I choose to fight," she bellowed, raising the vial high above her head. The light pulsed and throbbed, dimming for a heartbeat, then flaring back with life, fierce and blinding. The shadows coiled, snarling as the brightness surged. They were not just an enemy, they were every unspoken hurt, every lingering regret. But these moments of anguish were no longer weapons to be used against them, they were now fuel for their collective fire. "Together," she called again, rallying them as a surge of shared hopes and dreams flooded the air. "Let your truths shatter the silence. Let them drown out the darkness." And suddenly, the shadows flinched. Their coiling tendrils whipped backward, revealing brief moments of clarity, the anguished faces of those lost, the cries for help echoing softly in the distance. Each memory ground into Francesca like a stone in her heart, but she wouldn't flinch. This was a reckoning. As the group shouted, the ground vibrated beneath her feet. The shadows howled, writhing in agony, but the light engulfed them, a tidal wave of raw emotion crashing over the darkness. But just as the shadows began to dissipate, an explosion of darkness erupted from the center. The man raised his arms, summoning a rising storm that twisted like a spiral staircase. The light flickered, then waned as more shadows gushed forth like water from a broken dam. "No! We have to hold on," Francesca cried. "Hold the line." Yet fear wrapped its icy fingers around her throat as countless faces emerged within that darkness, each one more distorted than the last, people she vaguely recognized from her past, trapped in currents of despair. And amidst them, something caught her eye. A single face, clearer than the rest. The man who once fought alongside her, the one she thought lost forever. His eyes lost, haunted by the same shadows they tried to resist. "Francesca," he croaked, reaching out, fingers grazing just inches from the light. Her heart clenched painfully in her chest. Was this her greatest fear taking form? She felt her resolve crack, a shattering glass echoing deep within her. In that moment, Francesca understood the shadows could not simply be fought. They had to be confronted, embraced. Could she still believe in her truth as she saw his pain? As her pulse quickened, the shadows drew closer, hungry for vulnerability. Francesca knew her choice stood before her like a fragile sliver of hope. Would she risk everything, including herself, to save him and the others? And as she prepared to leap into that darkness, something unthinkable happened. The shadows froze, waiting for her next move, curiosity flickering in the air, shifting their form once more. What was the truth they sought? The fate of her battle hung in the balance, and with it, the varied lives of those who had joined her. Would they succumb to despair, or rise and embrace the pain? Francesca took a breath, gathering courage. The next step loomed large before her, and she knew she had to choose, not just for herself, but for everyone. Would she have the strength to face what the shadows truly demanded? Francesca's heart raced, but she steadied herself, eyes locked onto the man she thought she'd lost. He was there, trapped, the shadows curling protectively around him. Could he still be saved? The realization hit her like a thunderbolt through her chest. Embracing truth meant embracing the very things that terrified her the most. "Just hold on," she shouted, her voice ringing through the chaos. The shadows writhed impatiently, eager to consume the weakness they could smell. "We can pull you out," Francesca, don't trust them. They will twist your words. He yelled back, the desperation in his eyes igniting a faint hint of hope deep within her. Her heart clenched as she felt the power of their shared histories thrumming against the encroaching darkness. Memories came flooding in loss, failure, redemption, but they were all tangled together, forming a tapestry of pain and strength. If they could weave their truths together, could they turn those destructive shadows into something powerful? Everyone, we've faced our fears already, she cried, gathering courage. We fought the darkness. Not just for ourselves, but for each other. That's how we break free. As she spoke, she could see the flickers of belief lighting up the faces around her, still shrouded in fear but no longer suffocated by it. With her heart thumping like a drum, Francesca called upon the vial, holding it high above her head. The light shimmered, warping the shadows into hesitant forms. If we stand together, we become stronger. Let us make our fears the fire that fuels our light. Together. Someone shouted, echoing her sentiment, and in that electric moment, their voices united, rising against the oppressive darkness. The shadows shrank back. Hissing a sound rang out like a battle cry. Francesca strained to break through the darkness as the luminance of their collective truths expanded into a ball of radiant power. Fingers interlaced, they worked together, forging a barrier against the darkness that threatened to pull them apart. Then, like a sudden gust of wind, a tremor rippled through the air. Fools! The man spat, eyes blazing with fury. You think you can claim your light? He thrust his hands out, calling forth the shadows to form a monstrous wave that surged towards them. Now! Francesca shouted as she felt the energy pooling within her. From each individual truth, each voice of rebellion, they pushed the light forward, creating a blinding shield. It collided with the darkness, vibrating through the room with an intensity that shook them all to the core. A blinding explosion ruptured the air, and as the light surged, she caught glimpses of the faces that haunted her, the lost sister, the friend who had gone astray, even the fears that clawed at her heart. They were not foes but mere reflections of her own struggles, and she held them deep inside. Release them, Francesca bellowed, feeling the shadows buckle under the brilliance. They are part of us. As the light flared, the shadows screamed in anguish, writhing violently. They twisted like smoke, drawn back into a whirlpool of chaos, but losing their grip on those they once haunted. Francesca dared to step closer to the vortex, reaching for him, the man she thought she'd lost. We can overcome this. Trust me. His eyes widened, shimmering pools of emotion behind a wall of despair. Francesca, it's too much. I'm not strong enough. Yes, you are? She insisted, her voice breaking through the din. We can make it together. Just trust. He gasped as Francesca's hand brushed against his, their fingers intertwining through the dark veil. The shadows shrieked in fury, but were drawn toward the light, unwilling to relinquish their hold. Yet, she could feel something shifting, and in that moment, as doubts faded, their shared truths illuminated their surroundings with renewed brilliance and strength. She could sense that the light was burning brighter than any darkness, illuminating the shadows, revealing them for what they were. Not insurmountable monsters, but mere slivers of their own fears reflected back. The man took a deep breath, despair melting into acceptance. I trust you. And like a dam bursting, the shadows exploded outward, dissipating into sparkling lights, fragments of darkness vanishing into the ether. Gasps erupted through the crowd, witnessing as one by one they were freed from the clutches of fear. Francesca felt the warmth of the vial pulse in her hand as rays of light enveloped them all, each truth woven into a tapestry of brilliance. The shadows dwindled, and for the first time, silence settled in the room, a profound, reverberating stillness that echoed the weight of what they had conquered together. Francesca looked around, catching the hopeful glances from everyone, acceptance sewn together through shared struggles and bonded in light. She knew this was the end, but a new beginning. They had faced darkness, and in that confrontation, transformed into something unbreakable. "Thank you, Francesca," the man said, staring deeply into her eyes, a grateful smile illuminating his features. No shadows, no fears, only the strength born from unity. "You're not alone anymore," she reassured, her heart brimming with the love they fought for. As they stood together in that dim room, drawn close by an invisible thread of hope, the shadows melted away, leaving in their wake a sanctuary forged in truth. But before they could bask fully in their triumph, Francesca heard the echoes of laughter trailing off into silence, a reminder that the darkness would always lurk just beneath the surface. But as long as they held onto the light and their shared truths, they were ready for whatever came next. Now, more than ever, they could stand against the night united, unyielding, unstoppable. So as the new dawn kissed the horizon beyond the shattered remnants of their fears, the crowd stepped out, together into the light, ready to rewrite their stories, one truth at a time. And as this story concludes, let it spur you into action. First off, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out, hit that red button so you're always in the loop with our latest exclusive tales. Next, smash that like button now to activate the algorithm. Every click counts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think? I want to hear from you all. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, we can keep the light shining. This is the moment to show your support for this channel, and every little action matters.